I'm saying? Yeah. The fanatic. Where we keep it 100, keep it real. That's the only way we know how to be. Talking that sports talk. You know what I'm saying? Straight out of South Carolina, upstate, A64. Yeah. The FANATTIC. The fanatic, where we keep it OG. We talking sports, so I call what.
Welcome into the Fanatic, a sports show for sports fans by sports fan. It's your boy Coach I. And you know I got with me the Stat Guy. What's going on, Stat Guy?
Hey, what's going on, man? How's it going, Coach?
Hey, man, another good weekend. Listen, as a college football fan, another good weekend. As a Dog fan, it had me on the edge of my seat. You know what I'm saying? Like, we shouldn't be. But, hey, that's what college football has been this year. You know, big teams that don't seem like they got as much talent as another team, either upsetting them or giving them a game to the end, man.
And I'll tell you from my perspective, man, I miss South Carolina playing Thursday night football games. You know, I mean, South Carolina State wasn't really a formidable opponent, but dropping the 50 burger, getting the easy dub on Thursday, man, it ain't nothing better than sitting back on the couch on Saturday, not having to worry about if your team's winning or losing. So I pull it.
Well, you know, most times outside of like the Egg Bowl, there's rare times where, you know, SEC, I know that play on like Thursday or Friday. But, yeah, I mean, now on the reverse, if that's a decent team that you have to play on a Thursday, you have a shorter week coming off the previous week, but you get a longer week going into the following week. So let's just go ahead and talk about Week 5. Week 5, South Carolina did have to move their game because of Hurricane Ian. Hopefully everybody, you know, I know we lost some people from state of Florida and possibly some of the South Carolina, but condolences to all their families. But you guys moved the game till Thursday, did what you're supposed to do. One good thing about playing the Charlottes and the South Carolina States, it helps you, you know, get a dub up under the belt, get a little bit of confidence back, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. You know, it wasn't the prettiest, but hey, we finally got the monkey off the back and scored a first quarter touchdown for the first time this season. So, I mean, definitely a couple positives and some things just to build on as we now dive back into the brutality that is SEC football.
Yep, and then on the other side, Kentucky, it was a good game against Ole Miss. Kentucky held their own. They played real good down there on the Grove. Will Levis fumbles twice on the last two drives, man. It didn't help their cause. They end up losing by 3 down there, man. So both teams are coming off of a SEC loss. If you go back before Charlotte, South Carolina lost to Georgia. So South Carolina is 0-2 in the conference. Kentucky is 1-1 in the conference. So this would be a huge win should South Carolina be able to pull it off as far as the SEC, especially the SEC East is concerned. So let's go ahead and get into the actual preview. Let's talk about the Kentucky offense versus the South Carolina defense. So Chris Rodriguez is back. Now they got Chris Rodriguez, Will Levis, Kavasier Smoke, Travion Robinson, and on special teams, and, you know, Barry and Brown. I mean, he almost took 2 kickoffs to the house. Luckily, Shane Beamer is a special teams, you know, kind of coach, so maybe he can scheme up something for that. But what's scaring you the most, or what you worried about the most with this Kentucky offense?
I mean, 100% fact, Chris Rodriguez, and if you say anything different, you're lying to yourself. You know, going into that Ole Miss game, Kentucky only averaged about 81 yards on the ground a game, and really they were more of a pass-heavy offense. They really weren't even looking to run that much. But they have their workhorse back, right? Like, don't get it twisted. Chris Rodriguez is a workhorse. He's that brutal runner where he looks to put his shoulder pad into your chest. He gets stronger as the game goes on. He's probably better after 20 carries than he is that second or third carry in the game. And it's no surprise. South Carolina struggled making tackles. We've struggled stopping the run. One thing, he's not really an edge runner. They're not going to look to try to run sweeps or tosses and get him outside. They run more between the tackles with him, so I'm hoping that'll help us out a little bit more. We have been struggling making tackles on the outside, but, man, you look at a strong running team versus somebody who has proven they can't stop the run. That's a scary mismatch.
Yeah, then you got Cavassier Smoke, his dynamic partner. I think they got the offensive coordinator has some work to do as far as working out the balance of, because Cavassier only carried the ball like 2 or 3 times, Saturday, and then it is Chris Rodriguez. We know he got the bulk of the carries, but you still want to use that change of pace back for Kentucky, man. For me, I'm the same way, man, but I think you guys definitely don't want to focus like you. I mean, you definitely want to focus on Chris Rodriguez, but Will Levis is not. He's been playing pretty good. I'm not saying he's carrying the offense, but like you said, they've been more pass heavy before Chris Rodriguez got there, and they still have that capability going against the defense. On defense, though, you guys got Cam Smith back last game, or the game before last, and that helps the secondary a little. The outside still, leaves something to be desired.
But I mean, we talk about it. It comes with our front four and front seven aren't helping the issue. When you don't get pressure on the quarterback, when you don't put your face mask in their face mask as they're trying to pass, knock them on the ground a couple of times just to let them know you're there as a friendly reminder, or get some sacks, it's harder for your secondary to cover. I mean, you can't expect but so much for guys when plays break down, guys start breaking off of routes and running secondary routes and stuff off of their plays. Man, it's hard to cover that when you're not getting pressure and your defensive line's getting blocked up. The one other big thing that I didn't mention is I'm interested to see Will Levis' mindset coming into this game. He had the 2 fumbles. Obviously, you feel bad for the guy. They called the offensive penalty after the game-winning touchdown that got called back. But, I mean, he took a couple shots against Ole Miss. He got banged up a little bit. So is he at 100%? Is he going to have a quick trigger to try to avoid getting hit or to try to call some of these turnovers, or is he going to let his offensive line lock for him and make his reads? I mean, if he has a quicker trigger, that could potentially help South Carolina's DBs and to be able to jump some routes and make some plays for us.
That's right, man. And then let's flip it over to the other side of the ball, man. South Carolina's offense versus Kentucky's defense. Now, Kentucky, Jaquez Jones, the linebacker, he went down with an injury, then came back in the second half, played a little bit, but then the injury was getting to be a little bit too much for him, and he ended up leaving the game. So we'll have to wait to see if, what his status is this week. They also didn't have J.J. Weaver, their defensive end, this past Saturday versus Ole Miss, and he's like their guy, especially in the run stop department. So I think he may be back. I think they're eyeing that he may be back. So we'll see what their defense is like, man. But you guys are injury front on offense, man. Dylan Wonnum, I think Beamer said he's looking to get him back. He was hoping to get him back last week, and I think it's more like looking like the Kentucky. But I got an interesting stat, man, and I know it was several types of different teams, but in your 3 wins, Marshawn Lloyd has carried the ball double-digit times. In your 2 losses, he's only carried it single-digit times. What are you thinking about that?
Well, I mean, and you ask me, he's still not getting the ball enough. 15 carries against Charlotte. He only had 11 carries against South Carolina State. And, I mean, yeah, we were up. We were kind of doing stuff. His last carry, they got him a little 2-yard touchdown. No need for the guy getting hurt. But why is he not getting carries in the first quarter? Like, I get taking him out late in the third, early fourth, or whatever. That's fine. Give him the carries in the first quarter against the team that you're expecting to blow out and play back up. Right? So I'm telling you right now, I think he has to get, between his carries and maybe some screens or some stuff out of the backfield, he has to have at least 22 touches if we're expecting to beat Kentucky. If we're wanting to go into Kentucky, Marshawn Lloyd needs to pick up his production, not really his production, but the amount of touches he's getting. And I want to see them give him the ball at least 22 times this weekend.
Yeah, and if you guys can sustain drives, if you have some 7 to 10 play drives, that keeps the Kentucky offense off the field, which helps out that front that hasn't been great against the run. So I think you're right. And I mean, Marshawn Lloyd is who the offense needs to run through. And if you run through Marshawn Lloyd, that just makes Spencer Rattler that much more effective. And actually, Spencer Rattler's not a bad runner himself. You should run some of those RPOs or, or read options so that he can get out maybe it's 3rd and 2 and just run a read option. I don't think that's a planned call. That's a planned quarterback run, not like scrambling around and then he runs for the first down or something like that. Like, call some plays like that. Sustained drives. is how you can defeat that, help your defense out, you know what I'm saying? And the running game has got to help that out, because the more you pass and have incompletions, the more it stops the clock, the game gets long. That's not a good recipe, I don't think, for South Carolina when you're going up there.
So, and it's like, now, the one thing looking at, Ole Miss leads the world in rushing offense, right? They're top 3 in the country in rushing. They got a couple stud tailbacks. Their quarterback gets out and runs a little bit. They run some of that RPO stuff with him. But they broke a couple long ones, right? They had the 48-yard touchdown run, had another run for like 36, 37 yards. So, they had some success in some decent-sized runs. And so I'm hoping that South Carolina can kind of piggyback on that and get their run game going and make it the focal point. Like you said, shoot some clock, keep your defense on the sideline, keep them drinking Gatorade, keep them hydrated. The big thing is, he's going to get a lot of slack for it. You got to call a spade a spade. On the stat sheet, Spencer had two INTs on Thursday, right? You asked me, they were both on the wide receiver. Got to come up with both those catches. But end of the day, they go down as interceptions. And when you got 7 picks through 5 games, people are going to start talking. And so we'll see, man. They definitely going to have to take care of the ball. But, I love the gunslinger mentality. At least he's willing to make the throws instead of having somebody back there that's gun shy, that doesn't make the throw, just throws the ball out of bounds. So I'm expecting a really good game this weekend.
Yeah, and like you said, if he can just it wasn't just last game. There's a couple of other games where sometimes the ball just went through the receiver's hand, and like you say in the stat sheet, it does show Spencer with the 7 picks so far. So now granted, I'm not alleviating him for all responsibility. Some of those picks were definitely his fault, but they got to shore that up if they want a chance to beat Kentucky, man. And with that, man, we're going to talk about predictions. Just a little bit something, like you guys are going to Kentucky. What's crazy about this, I'm going to say SEC East competition. I don't know if it's necessarily a rivalry, but this series. Early 2000s, from 2000 to 2013, you guys owned the series. You know what I'm saying? You guys were 13-1 during that period. And then from 2014 to 2021, Kentucky's only lost, they're 7-1 in that. It's like you guys flip-flop. So this is a big one, man. You're trying to get over that hump. This is mental too. You know what I'm saying? After you lose to a team for so many times, it's like Kentucky with Florida, Kentucky with South Carolina in the beginning of the 2000s. So this is where you guys got to make a stand at some point to say, hey, we can beat Kentucky and not have people like, oh, we always lose to Kentucky, always lose to Kentucky. But the point spread is 10.5 in Kentucky's favor. So they're giving y'all 10. They're 10.5 point favorites. Give me a key to the game and tell me who's going to win, and if they're, basically pick the game based on the point spread.
That's fine. So I got 2 keys. One I obviously mentioned. The first key of the game is Marshawn Lloyd getting at least 22 touches, whether that be runs, some backfield stuff, whatever. 22 touches for Marshawn Lloyd is the number 1 key. And the second key is the front 4. You got a lot of 4 and 5 stars on there who have been in the program for 3 or 4 years. Hey, it's time to produce. So that front 4, I need them to get pressure on the quarterback. And to stuff the run a little bit, not let stuff get to second and third level. So our front 4 against their offensive line is going to be the second key. As far as the game, you hit it. It's a mental aspect, right? And we see it in other sports. We see it with other teams. You haven't beaten so and so long. Guess what? That doesn't affect Spencer Rattler. He wasn't the quarterback. That shouldn't affect Marshawn Lloyd. He wasn't the running back. And some of the other guys that have been here for some of the losses, maybe it pisses them off enough to where they man up and make a play instead of getting beat. And so here we go.
10.5.
Yeah, 10.5. No, I'm not worried about the points, because you already know South Carolina is going to go into Kroger Field on Saturday night. They're going to make the plays they need to make. Marshawn Lloyd is going to make the runs he needs to run, and Spencer's going to take care of the ball. Cox on top, 21-17. Go Cox.
All right. So I think, like you said, it just in a different way of saying it, one of the keys to the game is actually the offensive coordinator, Satterfield. he's got to start out, come in and decide what he wants to do against Kentucky. You can't be all over the place, which is what it looks like he's been doing, throughout the season. I think he needs to come in and say, all right, we're going to try to establish the run, even if we're early on, we're not getting any yards. Try to stick. You got to stick with the run to keep them honest, and that helps. That helps bring some of those safeties closer to the line. Even if they think you're going to run, you may only be getting 1 or 2 yards a carry, but, hey, you got to stick with it. You can't abandon the run too early because that's just not what y'all should be. I think if he could do that, you guys can make it definitely interesting. 10.5 points. Whew, that's a lot. You know what I'm saying? I think Kentucky wins, but I don't think they cover the spread. I think Kentucky's going to win something like 28-21, maybe 21-17, something like that. But I think they definitely win, but I don't think they cover the spread because, like you said earlier, that Chris Rodriguez, Cavassier smoke, that's rough right there. You know what I'm saying? So, especially for a team that's been struggling against the run. But I think you guys can make it a game if you, on the other side, stick to the run and don't abandon the run too early. Because if Marshawn Lloyd only gets 9 carries, Kentucky's going to cover the spread. So,
not unless Spencer's dropping 50-yard dimes out his back pocket.
Could be. We'll see. But there it is, man. Kentucky fans, South Carolina fans, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Leave your score predictions down in the comments, man. Let us know what you think, and if we missed anything. For the stat guys, it's Coach I, the Fan Addict. We out of here.
We got it jumping like it's that valley. I call my dogs out the pound, let's go eat. Turn on the Fan Addict, let's have a debate. Who really hold down the Southeast from state to state? What team hungry gonna eat everything up off their plate?